Welcome to another episode of Is This Thing Working? Today's February the 20th, 2024, and today's a good day. It's a special day. It's an important day, especially for Texans, the ones of y'all in the great state that listen to us. Hey, don't forget, today begins the Texas primary.
Early voting starts.
Yep.
Hello,
early
everybody.
Voting starts. Hey, Denise, how's it going? She's chomping at the bit. She wants to tell you about the election.
Jump in.
Yeah, she wants to tell you about the election. I know she does.
Yeah, well, make sure you go and bank that vote today as early as you can and get out to the votes. I know voting has gotten to be polarized, and as well as politicized. You know, we've heard about it for years now, especially ever since the 2020 election. And our government has done this on purpose.
Yeah.
You know, so that you don't have confidence in your elections anymore. But we need you. We need you to go vote and think about what is happening within your family and your community. Ask yourself some questions. Do you like the way Texas is heading? How is your quality of life? Is it better or worse? Will they come after me when they're through with the people they don't like? You know, until we can get our border closed and go back to the same day voting with one ballot and IDs only, we are going to have to fight the only way we can peacefully fight right now. And that is to overwhelm them at the polls.
That's going to be the only way.
It is.
I think it's just there's going to have to be so many votes they can't hide it. And that's what happened to them with President Trump in 2016. That's what blew their minds.
It did blow their minds, but we have to keep trying.
Yeah.
You know, that's just what we have to do. That's what Americans do. We vote. So please go vote. We appreciate you.
Our show would not be complete if we didn't mention the border.
That's right.
Yep.
We'll be discussing these reasons today for voting.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you a few stories.
Yeah. Well, we told you about Laura Loomer going down to the border. She went down to Panama to the migrant camps at the Darian Gap. She went to cross through the Darian Gap with them. And here's a story she tweeted 11 hours ago. And this is what she says in her tweet here. She goes, happening now. She goes, hopped onto an invader bus on the side of the road that was transporting a bunch of African invaders at 10 p.m. And the driver said I had to get off the bus, but I still got the video. The bus is headed to Costa Rica from Panamanian migrant camps for a 15-hour drive in the middle of the night. And then the invaders on the bus will make their way to the U.S. She goes on to say, I snuck on the bus and the invaders were all dressed in African garb.
Well, then she goes on to say, and these people are being bused to other countries in the middle of the night. A bus being trafficked in the dark of night, coming to a city near you.
There you go. She talked about the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, that NGO that was there the other day. She talked about those. Now you see that not only is that going on, you've got them busing them to other cities. Man, this is all planned. And like I said, our government's one of the biggest.
Yet human traffickers. That's what you've been saying.
Yep.
Human smugglers.
Yep, human smugglers, biggest
facilitators
of that in the world, man.
It's disgusting. Another reason to go vote today.
Yeah. Not only that. Okay, we see this happening. Mm-hmm. Here's another thing about them. Check this out.
An illegal immigrant wearing an Obama hat marching to the United States was one of the many disturbing events I encountered while making my way toward the Baja Chiquito camp for illegals coming to the United States. I am reading an article from Loomer.com. This is Laura Loomer, who is, like we said, going down her reporting on her trip down along the Darian Gap. Okay, she says the Darian Gap, which connects North and South America. Seafront Panama, which is Panama's border patrol, informed me that 2,000 illegal immigrants a day destined for the United States of America pass through his country. United Nations-backed organizations are directly helping illegals make their way through Panama. The citizens of Panama informed me that they hope President Trump wins the election, as the illegal immigrant caravans have deeply harmed Panama. Biden's open borders have created an international humanitarian crisis. And this right here is exactly what I have been saying.
Yeah.
From the very beginning.
It is a humanitarian crisis.
It's an international humanitarian crisis.
Chaos created For what? For people to look to depend on the government
Yes.
to solve this humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, and she goes on. She says in a tweet here, she says, in the Darian Gap today, I encountered a migrant invader who was wearing an Obama hat. I asked him where he's from, and he said Venezuela. I asked him where he was going, and he said Los Estados Unidos. Lovely.
Los Estados Unidos. You know what that is? The United States.
Yep. Not exactly great conditions for a small child, which the gentleman that's holding a small child has the Obama cat on. She said, unsurprisingly, Democrats accuse the Obama picture of being fake. The left is desperate not to face blame for the horrific conditions they are putting children through. Following the posting of this photo, I then share a video showing an illegal immigrant wearing an Obama hat approaching the van. NGOs and the United Nations have had a long history of passing out old sports and campaign attire to residents of third world countries. It is essential to point out that the man wearing the Obama hat's wife had an old Philadelphia 76ers jersey. Yawn. She says yawn. It's funny. Her tweet says yawn. Just another leftist loser making excuses for the way the Democrats are encouraging invaders to come out to our country. What do you think all of the candidates' old campaign swag is into? I have always wondered this.
What?
Me too, man.
Yeah, that and the Super Bowl swag, like they put out. They had to make shirts that said San Francisco won the Super Bowl.
Oh, they did
they had
too.
to dump all those.
That's hilarious. I didn't even think of that.
I wonder if half the world realizes that the Chiefs won and not the 49ers.
Because they're all getting San Francisco 49ers shirts that were already paid for. That's hilarious.
Well,
I didn't even think about that.
With the guy with the Obama hat, what I went to was, why are you supporting Obama? Why do you have an Obama hat on? Why didn't she ask him that? I would have been like, he's not the president, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that we think of is, they're promoting Obama.
Yes, they are.
Because Michelle Obama.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That is what I thought.
Huh,
that they're
interesting.
promoting her name.
I hadn't thought about that.
To get her
man.
name, for them to know, this is who you're going to be voting for.
Yeah.
I think it's a dig at Biden. I really do.
Well,
I
and
don't
it's
trust these
also
people.
putting the Obama name back in people's minds.
Yes.
Which is a good thing, in my opinion, because maybe that just will expose what Obama's really up to. Can't tell me, man, that Joe Biden is calling these shots without his influence and without Susan Rice's influence.
Oh, of course.
So, we all know that.
We all know that.
Yeah, we all know that.
And the thing about it is what gets me is I'm talking about Obama right here, man. It goes all the way. Obama, in his FBI and CIA, remember when we were talking about Obama and his, CIA and FBI censoring Americans,
well,
how they did President Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
But we wanted to start and remind you about the FBI, the Schellenberger and the Taibbi stuff that we did last week. The 26 people that they were targeting.
Yeah.
For the disinformation.
The CIA actually instigated the Russian collusion hoax. That proof came out with the bombshell report from Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi last week, that the CIA was the ones that actually reached out to the
Trump advisors before the 2016 election.
And set them up. Yeah.
Set them up. And we reported all that last week. Well, this week, what's so crazy is now Mike Benz came out on an interview with Tucker, and he is with the Foundation for Freedom Online. And you can check any information that we talk about at foundationforfreedomonline.com for more information on any of this. But today we're going to tell you a little bit about what's going on here. The national security state is the main driver of censorship and election interference in the United States. Mike Benz, he says, what I'm describing is military rule. It's the invasion of a democracy. So here is Tucker.
The defining fact of the United States is freedom of speech. To the extent this country is actually exceptional, it's because we have the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights. We have freedom of conscience. We can say what we really think. There's no hate speech exception to that. Just because you hate what somebody else thinks, you cannot force that person to be quiet, because we're citizens, not slaves. But that right, that foundational right that makes this country what it is, that right from which all other rights flow, is going away at high speed in the face of censorship. Now, modern censorship bears no resemblance to previous censorship regimes in previous countries in previous eras. Our censorship is affected on the basis of fights against disinformation and malinformation. And the key thing to know about these is they're everywhere. And of course, they have no reference at all to whether what you're saying is true or not. In other words, you can say something that is factually accurate and consistent with your own conscience. And in previous versions of America, you had an absolute right to say those things. But because someone doesn't like them or because they're inconvenient to whatever plan the people in power have, they can be denounced as disinformation, and you could be stripped of your right to express them, either in person or online. In fact, expressing these things can become a criminal act and is. And it's important to know, by the way, that this is not just the private sector doing this. These efforts are being directed by the U.S. government, which you pay for and at least theoretically own. It's your government. But they're stripping your rights at very high speed. Most people understand this intuitively, but they don't know how it happens. How does censorship happen? What are the mechanics of it?
So that was Mike Benz telling you.
No,
I'm sorry. So that was Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was telling you what he's fixing to talk about with Mike Benz. What I think is crazy about this is the artificial intelligence that's behind it all also. So let's all think about what's going on behind the scenes as well as we get into this right here. That there have been people that came out after this explosive interview and they were blown away. For example, we had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's a candidate for the Democrat side. He said one of the most remarkable interviews ever, how the Pentagon and CIA created a censorship industrial complex to fix U.S. elections. And then we had this, I don't know if you guys heard of the Vigilant Fox, but he is on X, and he's right. He said it's unreal. The censorship technologies originally intended for terrorist organizations have been weaponized against the American people. And we have a little bit of a clip of Ben's. So here you go.
17 moved immediately to pressure European governments to pass censorship laws to create a transatlantic flank attack on free speech in exactly the way that Rick Stengel essentially called for to have the U.S. mimic European censorship laws. One of the ways they did this was by getting Germany to pass something called NetzDG in August 2017, which was essentially kicked off the era of automated censorship in the U.S. What NetzDG required was, unless social media platforms wanted to pay a $54 million fine for each instance of speech, each post left up on their platform for more than 48 hours that had been identified as hate speech, they would be fined basically into bankruptcy when you aggregate 54 million over tens of thousands of posts per day. And the safe haven around that was if they deployed artificial intelligence-based censorship technologies, which had been, again, created by DARPA to take on ISIS, to be able to scan and ban speech automatically. And this gave, I call these weapons of mass deletion. These are essentially the ability to censor tens of millions of posts with just a few lines of code. And the way this is done is by aggregating. Basically, the field of censorship science fuses together two disparate groups of study, if you will.
He gives a lot of information right through here, and I was going to stop for just a second because basically what he's talking about is word filters that have been created already because we've seen them throughout the years. Certain forum boards would have filters on it to where you you couldn't be hostile towards somebody. They'd cut your little word, and I seen this, man.
Yeah, we've seen words. Certain words would get you canceled.
Yeah, people being banned on Facebook was not a new thing. This was happening back in 2004, 2005, 2006.
Yes.
And it was.
In 2014.
In 2014 especially, yes. That's when people really began to take notice. But it was happening back then because I can remember big into Texas 5A high school football.
Right.
I love it, big fan. And so there was a forum board and, we got into little football arguments and it wasn't nothing to get banned off there.
Right.
That was kind of my point with that. But you're right about a lot of this really began to get ramped up and started, as far as we're concerned, and what we begin to notice in light of the Russian collusion hoax from that point forward, leading all the way up to the 2020 election, how the censorship,
it just got out of control.
well, yeah.
It's like they were figuring it out about that time. And then when elections, this is what what I got out of listening to the elections were getting polarized on the internet and actually going toward the other side. See, they were trying to make it to where everybody went toward their side. But actually, in 2016, it showed that President Trump's voice actually made it over the censorship at that point.
Yeah.
So he ended up winning, and they blame it on the internet, and they're not paying attention. So they came out full force. Benz detailed how the government-funded virology COVID them down into sub-claims for monitoring and censorship through machine learning models, aiming to control the speed of information harmful to official narratives or individuals, for example, like Tony Fauci. So they would bring whatever they wanted so much. They would have these, we call them bots.
PSYOP, man. It was all
It's
PSYOP.
all PSYOP.
That's what it was. Yeah.
You know,
don't
these
have to
bots
explain
come
the
on
bots.
here and
Yeah.
just go to town. And that's what you see all the time. It's like competitive. Well, if it's there all the time, well, yeah, we need to believe that.
Right.
That's how they are psyoping
that's
you.
the narrative driven. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the narrative driven. And that's what we're all about, is breaking those narratives. Here we go again. Everybody wants to support Ukraine in this needless border war that they've got going on over there. Everybody, you know, the big push for Ukraine.
$60 billion is on the line here.
But this was another one of the CIA coups that they're so famous for doing and have been for 75 years.
Yes.
You know.
So you continue to see people commenting on anything that you say about Ukraine. It's going to say they need money. You're letting these people die. You know, anything for emotion.
Well, and
You know what I mean?
look, and based on watching the Putin interview with Tucker Carlson from a couple of weeks ago, he talked about this, and he talked about the same thing. Here's a conservative newsfeed tweet, and this is on X. It says, and it's a real good explanation of how everything has went down. And this is what he said. It's what it says. It says the war in Ukraine might have really began in February 2014 when the CIA allegedly helped overthrow the Ukrainian government. Large protests started when President Viktor Yanukovych refused to sign a free trade agreement with the EU. Instead, he wanted to remain trading partners with Russia and also wanted Ukraine to remain neutral. The protests turned out deadly when police started firing at protesters. However, the police said they were shot at first. In total, 108 protesters and 13 police officers were killed. The shooting led directly to the overthrow of Yanukovych. Some people think that the group that started the shooting that day were members of the CIA.
The CIA is in everything. And it goes on to say the CIA has a long history of overthrowing governments. Wow. The U.S. had involvement in regime changes. And listen to this. Listen. In Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Yugoslavia, Zaire, Haiti, South Korea, Greece, Japan, Germany, Italy, France, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Albania, Egypt, just to name a few.
Yeah. Numbers have it, it's over 50 that they've done over the years, man.
You could say coups are our specialty.
And that's what this one was called, was the maiden coup. And this was in 2014 when they removed Yanukovych out of power and put Zelensky in. It says, was the maiden coup just another attempt by the U.S. government or the U.S. to overthrow a government? Is the new Ukrainian government just puppets that do what they're told? Has the U.S. been planning this war with Russia all along? Is that why they refused to negotiate a peace deal? Were the men that fired shots that started the maiden coup, were they CIA agents? Man, these are good questions.
These are good questions.
And if you look back, and that's all we want you to do is give you the information. You take it, you research it, see if you come up to the same conclusions that we are, man.
Totally. Please do this. I mean, it just blows my mind. I knew that there was psyops going on. I had no idea the massive amount of it.
Right.
You know, and how our government has managed to turn domestically when that's illegal. Our CIA can't do it. Our FBI can't do it. What did he say? They found that the DHS could.
Mm-hmm. And so the interview with Mike Benz, if it's an hour and 4 minutes, and I want to tell y'all, man, we watched it and we kept having to stop it and soak some of this in, because Mike gets up there and gives an amazing amount of information.
And he starts at the beginning.
It's like a lecture. I mean, he gives a lecture, and poor Tucker just kind of sits there with his head cocked to the side and every so often would raise his eyebrows. You know how he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was blown
I
away.
think I'll go take a nap after this.
Yep. So we encourage you to watch that video. There's a lot of good information in there, and Tucker challenges him on some things.
He does. He asks questions.
He does challenge him on a couple of things. So yeah, pay attention to it. Check it out. But what I guess really by bringing all of this kind of stuff up is to let you know the importance of right now, other than what would Tim Pool say, other than civil war. I think we're about as far as we're going. We're on our last leg right here with elections.
Yes.
People, please get out and vote. Make your vote count. Get out there and do it. We need the numbers to be so large that they can't be cheated again.
We need to fight against our government. This is really important.
We're being taken over.
Laura at the border,
Yep.
which is very important, especially for the southern states that have, and by the way, the northern states as well, because I've been seeing a lot of stuff where people are coming northern.
Well,
and
they're being affected by this too.
They are.
Yes, they are.
So it's very important. And also we talked about the censorship, and we kind of we left out something that I really wanted to discuss here real quick, because this is part of the censorship. On X this morning, okay, we'll start from here. On Fox this morning, we seen a video of
the mother
of Navalny, who was supposedly killed in Russia. Okay, I say that in quotes because no one has any proof yet that this happened.
That Putin killed him.
Putin killed him, or
we have proof he's dead, but who killed him?
But then, then we go on X, and you can't even find the video. It says that they have been deleted.
Yeah, her account's been suspended. Yeah, her account's been suspended because she came out and spoke out against the Kremlin not allowing her to even view the body.
Yes.
They've held it now for 5 days from her.
Yes, and she can't even get in. She said she even went down where he's at, and they wouldn't let her.
And that's why we brought you the very first Tucker video. That was his monologue to open his show with his interview with Mike Benz, and that's why we gave you that monologue, because the very first thing that he talked about was our right to free speech. And just because somebody says something you don't like doesn't mean they can't say it.
That's exactly right.
And look what we've got going on here with this now.
Yes.
And other news organizations, CNN, they're all asking, Jake Tapper, Jake Sherman, they're all asking, hey, Elon, what's going on here, man?
Yes, so we'll bring you that news.
That's going to be interesting to watch today and see if Elon responds to this, man, and how this goes.
Yes. So, and that's why we need you to please get out and vote. We need to beat this. Our military is taking over America, if you haven't figured that out.
Yeah, especially our Texans, man. Go vote in this primary, and let's
let everyone hear what you have to say. When they see that the American people are done, they're just done with being told what to do, being forced into circumstances that they don't want to be in, being forced to pay exorbitant amounts of money for gas, food, insurance, electricity. Electricity has gone up 5 times in the last 3 years.
Really?
So we need to vote
to get these things back, to make our country strong again,
to make America great again.
Yep. Is this thing working?
Rise up.
Well, hey, everybody, that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you've learned some things about what's going on around us in the nation and in your communities. We couldn't do this without your continued support either. We appreciate all of you showing up, taking the time to listen to us today. So please, like I say, make sure to hit the like button, share our show with all your friends. We'll see you next time on Is This Thing Working? And as always, I'm James, And that's my lovely co-host over there.
Denise.
And we'll see you next time.
We're out.